Today on AGetc, we start off talking about exciting biodiesel projects at Seward County Community College and North Central Kansas Tech in Beloit as part of the Kansas Biodiesel Consortium. Hear from instructors Chris Hickman and Dan Hyman about their individual projects and how they are working together as well. Next, Mykel Taylor from the Agricultural Economics Department at K-State is talking land values, and Marshall Hay from the Department of Agronomy is giving tips on controlling weeds in corn. We'll end with Dave Mengle discussing corn fertility. Stay with us.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine. Your stem cells, your health, your life.
And so I'll try to explain it from my perspective as the process technology instructor. It's an interdisciplinary project that covers our science department, really the pre-engineering department, the agriculture department. Over on the industrial technology side, of course, process technology, but we also have our transportation folks, including the CDL truck driving people are going to be a piece of this also for using the fuels. And everybody's been involved in it, though. The drafting folks have helped do up some of the plans as we move through. And then the corrosion folks are looking at storage issues for once we start building our storage tanks. So really on the industrial technology side, almost everybody, the welding instructors, I mean, it's just an all hands on deck project is what it is. And then our industrial partners, our industry partners have been helping us quite a bit. High Plains Bioenergy has come through with our greenhouse and done a hazard analysis for us to make sure that we're starting off. So right now we're in the middle of really making sure the airflows are all proper, the heating systems are safe for fuel storage and production, and then also we have the right sensors and alarm devices, and I mean it's really pretty intense. I could probably talk for a couple of hours, but I'll try to keep it short. What we hope to do inside of the facility itself, though, is grow algae. Is one of the processes that we want to do, and then also the ag department wants to use different types of feedstocks, granola, soybean. They mentioned some of the other ones up there, and I'm a process guy, not the ag guy. But the idea is to try different feedstocks and perfect the process for each of the different feedstocks. So we're really in the construction phase and building. From the process technology side, I had the reactors in my labs for several years, and we did some, we used some of the National Biodiesel Board's curriculum that they have out there for introducing students to bioproduction. But what we did was we just took them through the very preliminary phases. Once you start getting into drying and washing and some of those other things where you come up with, like they were talking about today, the high ASTM standards and all the other ones, that's going to be our stretch for us, going from teaching really what would be considered a high school lab setting to really helping the industry partners who are helping us get this thing up and running. And so that's probably the biggest part, is we're adjusting our curriculum and building out the processes.
Sure Crop Fertilizers was started by my father, Don Sherman, and my mother, Shirley Sherman. Family business that started in the 80s. We predominantly focus on plant nutrients and what we can do to give growers better responses with the fertilizer dollars that they do, and what we can do to make those things work better for the grower. We're based out of Seneca, Kansas. We work with growers in their soil analysis to figure out what they need, and then we can put those in a blend that gives them the best results, and so that we can deliver that direct to their farm so that they have those nutrients where they need them, when they need them, and so that they can apply them in a manner that's very efficient to them and works well on their planting systems and what they're doing. Sure Crop Fertilizers has been around for a long time. We always say we're big enough to take care of everything you need, but we're small enough to do it quickly. You can get a hold of us at 1-800-635-4743. Our website is surecropfertilizers.com, and you can always email me at Corey@surecropfertilizers.com, and with any questions you have, and we're glad to answer and work with you.
Ag Promo Source is a unique group of marketing specialists with one mission: help your ag business grow. Each affiliate has their own area of expertise, and they work together to bring you advice, products, and services. To get started, visit agpromosource.com. Ag Promo Source. Together we grow.
The new Better Horses Network is worldwide. Presented by Lucas Oil. Featuring worldwide radio and TV with iconic hosts like Al Dunning, Sharon Camarillo, Ernie Rodina, Lindy Birch, and Craig Cameron. With American Cowboy, Horse and Rider, Brushy Creek, Cavenders, and Ride TV. Worldwide radio and TV. The all-new Better Horses Network.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Wheat. Learn more at rediscoverwheat.org.
The reason we're here today is we're here to work with the consortium on biodiesel. We took some students down to Diesel Specialties in Hutchinson, Kansas to rebuild an injection pump to show the effects on why biodiesel affects things when you don't use it correctly or improperly mixed or improperly produced. And we're here to just show what it does to the parts and what problems it causes if you don't use it correctly, mix it correctly, or the blend is wrong. It's just a matter of how the pump reacts to it. We actually had a pump that was locked up from using bio, because when you let it set, it gums up, it varnishes, and then that's what shuts down the pump. So we sent a couple students down there to rebuild this pump, and that's what we're here for today, is for them to explain what was stuck, what causes the problem, and how to fix it. And that's what part of our program in Beloit is to teach biodiesel and alternative fuels, but the primary is diesel technology out of Beloit, Kansas. Well, what they saw through the process, like say here, you got your plungers, they were all gummed up with varnish. That's from setting. If you let bio set, it gets gummed up, it turns to varnish. It just shows your rack. And they were showing, like earlier, Mark was over here, the guy that helped him rebuild it, the guy that owns the shop. He was telling them, how these different components lock up. They varnish real bad, and it almost takes tools to pull them apart when they stick. He just showed them, tolerances, showed them how to measure everything, how to clean everything, and what it takes to rebuild one after this is sat in it for too long. It's just a disassembly and assembly process that they went through, and it took them approximately a day and a half. 2 students down there just doing it full time and cleaning and reassembling and learning how to do it. And later on this year, we're going to send a couple more down and do another pump. Our responsibility is to test the machinery, how it operates, what it does right, what it does wrong, what it can do wrong. It's just a matter of what can go wrong with the components when it's not used correctly, like I said before, mixed correctly, the wrong blends. That's things we're trying to do in the future. We were a small production up in Beloit, but now I talked to the Soybean Commission, and they've agreed to just fund us for testing the equipment. And we're going to turn all of our stuff over to Seward County for making it.
KFRM is one of the largest farm radio stations in the nation, dedicated to informing and entertaining rural listeners from northern Oklahoma to southwestern Nebraska. You can catch KFRM in many ways. Of course, 550 on the AM dial, streaming at kfrm.com, or on your smartphone by going to the TuneIn Radio app, or on Ag AM in Kansas on Tuesdays and Facebook every day of the week. KFRM, tune us in. You'll be glad you did.
Imagine everything you could ever dream about when it comes to horses. Those dreams come true at the 21st Annual Equipest coming to Topeka, Kansas in February at the Kansas Expo Center, the largest equine expo in the Midwest with shopping, food, clinics, workshops, and more. World-class trainers, over 100 horses performing throughout the 3 days, displaying a variety of breeds, disciplines, demonstrations, and competitions. Vendors from all over the U.S. and non-stop entertainment. If you love horses, join us at Equifest of Kansas in Topeka, Kansas. Get tickets at equifestofks.com.
PFI Western Store, home of Boot Daddy, proud to be part of Equifest. PFI, located at 65 on Battlefield in Springfield, Missouri. Spend $50 at PFI and get a Boot Daddy hoodie for only $10.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply. This segment brought to you by Sure Crop. Liquid crop nutrition delivered right to your farm.
Well, my name is Mykel Taylor, and I'm an associate professor at Kansas State University in the Department of Agricultural Economics. And we were talking this morning about land values and rental rates, just tracking the land market and trying to get a sense of where it's been and where it's headed. Talked about the fact that since 2015, the land market has softened between 15 and 20%. Based off of market sales, and where it's headed, it also has sort of flattened out just in the last year, so it's holding steady right now, and we're watching it to see whether or not some things are going to happen that might affect that, but for the most part right now we're just holding steady. So we've noticed that the land markets are very localized, and for a lot of the really good quality land, it's held its value, and folks are still willing to spend money on good quality land with the idea that they can have a profitable enterprise off of it. The lower quality land, though, has lost its value, and that has a lot to do with the fact that just in these tough economic times, the profitability is not there on lower quality land. I think you really have to run your numbers. It's very important right now that you're using all of your farm management skills, and that you're tracking all of your cost of production, and that you're looking at every situation with regard to rented land and making sure that you can be either profitable or break even off of it. The other thing is just to recognize that in some cases we're going to lose money in the short run, that some ground is going to be difficult to farm and difficult to make good money off of, but in order to hold on to it and be able to maintain our land portfolio, which our machinery is based off of, we may be willing to lose a little bit of money on some of that rented ground in the short run. So on the Ag Manager website, we provide all of the information that comes out of the Department of Agricultural Economics. And it's going to range from things on land values and rental rates to farm bill to crop and livestock marketing and crop insurance. So we try to provide a good portfolio of information to our users that can help them make good farm management decisions. I think we'll be starting in the spring with Farm Bill meetings. As soon as we know more from FSA about what the Farm Bill rules are going to look like, then we'll try to go out around the state and provide that information to producers and help them make those PLC versus ARC decisions.
Hi, I'm Randy.
And I'm Paul from PFI.
We would like to personally invite you to stop by PFI, home of Boot Daddies.
PFI is America's Western store, covering over 50,000 square feet.
Over 25,000 boots.
Visit Saddle City with the largest selection of saddles and tack anywhere.
A huge selection of hats at Big Spur Hat Company in PFI Town.
And choose from the best brands of clothing and accessories for the entire family.
PFI, located on Highway 65 at the Battlefield exit in Springfield. And I'm not kidding.
Hello, I'm Dr. Frank Lyons from Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center here in Manhattan, Kansas. Daryl was one of our patients that we did about 7 months ago.
I dug trees by hand for years and years and years. In the process, I wore out my rotator cuff. But when I learned about this process, I thought if there's a way to get rid of this pain, then I want to do it. So we did it, and it worked. I'm not going to go out and take trees with a shovel anymore, but I can do the things that I want to do now.
Well, it's been very gratifying to help people with their painful joints and other entities, and it's been especially gratifying to be able to help people who I know and have worked with and known for many years.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Corn. Learn more at kscorn.com.
I'm Marshall Hay, and we were discussing corn weed management today. Kind of the highlights of our presentation. First thing we talked about was the importance of getting out right now and looking at a winter treatment. Something that's going to help control our mare's tail, our brome populations, maybe some of those mustards that are out there in the fields. Just get those pushed back before the mare's tails start to bolt here later on in the spring. And with that winter treatment, I think we can do some things to help set ourselves up for pigweed control later on as we get closer to corn planting. So putting out some residuals such as some flumioxazin such as Valor, or 2 ounces of saflufenicil or Sharpen, something like that, can help to put some residual out there that can hold us over and push those pigweeds back until we get more residual put on at planting time. Now as we start to think about our corn herbicide programs for this year, I think that a good corn herbicide program needs to contain 3 main parts. The first part is we need to have multiple effective sites of action. The second part is we need to start clean at planting with a good burn down if necessary. And then the last part is to have overlapping residuals. Now with the multiple effective sites of action piece, we're looking at tank mixing multiple herbicides together so that way the selection pressure is never on just one herbicide. Now emphasis on the effective part of that application. A lot of times we're spraying many sites of action, but are they really effective on our driver weed species out there? Something to think about. With a good burn down, our best burn down recommendation for something like pigweed before we plant corn is to get out there with some paraquat and atrazine with maybe some crop oil to help burn that stand of pigweed down before the corn ever comes up. And then with our overlapping residuals, it's the idea that we never want to have to control pigweed emerged in corn. The fact is that we just don't have very many effective herbicides to do a cleanup application if pigweed happens to get away from us in corn. So by using an overlapping residual approach, something that's maybe a pre-plant, post treatment in which we're containing residual herbicides in all 3 of those applications, can help to keep the weeds pushed back so that way we never have to control them emerged. And if we do, it's just an off-case situation. So those are the 3 main things that I think we need to think about with corn weed management this year. Extension has a big role about helping to educate our farmers, producers, and retailers about building sound herbicide management programs for this year and in years to come. One of the ways that we get the best information is by doing on-farm or plot research at our research stations. So we're putting out many different plots each year to help evaluate different herbicide programs so that we can make data-based recommendations. Also, we have many different meetings like this where producers can come and have interaction with us, listen to our presentations, and ask questions. In addition to our extension publications, we have numerous publications available online or physical copies where we can download or get them by mail hard copy to help answer some of our weed management questions. Our most popular weed management publication is the Weed Control Guide 2019. It comes out new every year. More than 100 pages of really useful information that helps us decide on herbicide efficacy, which herbicides are better on different weeds, and how to structure adjuvants and programs and things like that. So a very useful book that I think everyone needs in their office or their truck. Lastly, we have weekly e-updates provided by the K-State Agronomy Department, in which extension specialists provide articles or helpful hints on hot topics that might help us prepare or answer some of those questions that are bothering us in the field right now. So those are just some different areas that we can get or by talking to our local county agents to get in touch with the specialists to get answers to those burning questions.
Tarwater Farm and Home is a 40-year-old local family-owned business. Clothing for work and play, seeds and feeds, boots, toys for the kids, and tools you'll need for around the house and farm. And a service department to keep them in top running order. It's a big store, so take some time to see what they have for your farm and home. Tarwater's everyday pricing is like others' sale prices. When you need it, they've got it. Tarwater Farm and Home, 4107 North Topeka Boulevard.
Hi, I'm Kim Mandring with Hardy Insurance. I'm here to help you with all of your farm and ranch needs. When it comes to protecting your operation and your family, you need a name you can trust at a price you can afford. Call me today or visit hardyaviationins.com.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Hi, I'm Dave Mengle. I'm a retired faculty member from K-State in the agronomy department. And we're talking a little bit today about soil fertility and fertilizer management for corn. And there were three major points that I tried to make with my slide presentation. And number one was encouraging people to soil test, but particularly to get them to zero in on certain key nutrients that are a bigger problem. Traditionally, we will talk about organic matter, soil pH, phosphorus, potassium, and potentially zinc tests for the surface soils. But what I really want them to also think about is continued use of profile soil testing, not just for nitrogen though, but particularly for sulfur, because that's a nutrient that's becoming more deficient over the years as we've done a great job of cleaning up the air, removing the sulfur emissions that have been out there for years, and we've reduced the amount of sulfur. We've about cut in half the amount of sulfur that is deposited annually, so we're now putting on less than the plant's utilizing, and deficiencies are becoming more and more widespread. So that's one of the big ones. Then another thing I talked about was starter fertilizer use. I always assess the group to see how many of them actually use starter fertilizers, and in this particular group here at Lawrence, we had about 50% of the people that indicated they use starter fertilizers. That's probably not good enough, and for two or three reasons. One is Kansas is still a state that has relatively modest soil test levels for phosphorus. Historically, that's been the case. It's not really changing much, and likely won't change much. And part of that is due to the way that land is rented. We've moved to a cash rent system that's a little less secure for the tenant, and consequently, they're a little more reluctant to invest in the phosphorus fertilizers to raise the soil test. So we're seeing them actually drift a little bit downward. And we get responses to starter fertilizers when we have low phosphorus soil tests. That's a very key point. The other part of that equation is shifts in tillage practices. More and more of our dryland corn production is on no-till and long-term no-till. Well, what happens there is we build up residue on the surface. In some cases, we're planting cover crops in addition to add to that residue. And this creates a cooler soil environment for that seedling to develop in. Phosphorus moves to the plant root by diffusion. Diffusion is accelerated by higher temperatures. So what we're doing is putting the brakes on the phosphorus availability. And so as we go to more and more no-till, we need to think more and more about starter fertilizer use. So those are two things that are very important. The other aspect with the starter, though, before I move on, is that we have to be careful how we apply it. We're getting more and more response to nitrogen in the starter fertilizers. We're putting more nitrogen on. And nitrogen and potassium are salts, are components of salts which can injure plants. And the nitrogen can convert to ammonia in the soil, which also injures roots. So we got to make sure there's some separation between the fertilizer material and the seed, or we're going to have some seedling injuries which can occur. So we want to watch where we put it. Then the last thing I talked about, the last point, was regarding to when we apply nitrogen. Traditionally, we've known that as the earlier we apply fertilizer, nitrogen fertilizer, the more likely we are to get some losses as it sits there in the soil through either leaching or denitrification. That is actually becoming a bigger problem due to climate change. We can argue about the sources of climate change and why it's changing. We're not going to go there today. But what I will tell you is if you look at the weather records on the intensity of rainfall and the events that we're getting less rain in terms of the number of days, but the same amount in terms, or the same number of inches on an annual basis. So we get more and more rain concentrated in fewer rainfall events. And that is leading to situations that create leaching or create wet soils for denitrification. So applying that nitrogen in maybe fewer pounds at a time, but more applications later in the growing season can be very beneficial. And the plant's going to utilize nitrogen from the time it's roughly knee-high up through the time it puts out a tassel. And so the later we can get a portion of that nitrogen applied, the more efficient we'll be and the higher our yields are going to be. So those were the three things that we tried to summarize and the points we tried to make today.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.